It happened just 7 minutes ago. The world was waiting, eyes glued to screens, hearts beating a little faster. And then the words came. King Charles has officially declared that Archie and Lilibet will never receive royal titles. No prince, no princess, no exceptions. And Meghan Markle, she lost it. Imagine hearing that. Your heart sinks. Your dreams shattered in one official announcement. You have fought for recognition, fought for your children, believed in the promise of legacy, and suddenly, the very institution you once admired, the monarchy itself, tells you, no, not your children, not now, not ever. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Now, let me ask you, if you were Meghan, how would you feel? How would you respond to the news that your children, your legacy, are being erased from the official narrative of royalty? Could you stay calm, or would fury, heartbreak, and disbelief consume you? The timing couldn't have been more precise. Just as the world thought the debate over titles was simmering down, King Charles acted. This was not a casual remark, not an offhand comment at a family dinner. This was a statement with absolute clarity. Archie and Lilibet will not be granted the honors that define royalty. The debate is over. End of discussion. For years, Meghan and Harry have navigated the treacherous waters of public scrutiny, royal protocol, and media frenzy. Every move they made, every interview, every philanthropic endeavor was observed, dissected, and judged. And yet, the question of their children's status has lingered, like a shadow over every announcement, every public appearance. Now, King Charles has cast that shadow into darkness, and Meghan's hopes have been crushed under the weight of one simple declaration. What makes this moment so shocking is the stakes. These are not just titles. They are symbols of legitimacy, acceptance, and a place in the royal lineage that, until now, Meghan dared to hope her children could occupy. For generations, royal titles have been the crown jewels of identity, a public acknowledgement of family connection, historical significance, and personal status. Denial of those titles? That's not just bureaucracy. That's a message. A public statement that Archie and Lilibet are not officially part of the royal narrative. And yet, the world is watching Meghan's reaction with bated breath. Reports from insiders suggest fury, disbelief, and heartbreak. She is said to be questioning everything: the fairness of the decision, the motives behind it, even the loyalty of those around her. Imagine the pressure. Imagine the rage of knowing your children's future has been officially closed off, and all you can do is wait, plan, and watch as the story unfolds. But it's not just about Meghan. It's about Harry too. How does a father reconcile the pain of rejection with the duty to protect his family? How does he face a system he once served loyally, only to see it deny the very people he loves the most? And how does this decision ripple outward, affecting relationships within the family, between siblings, between cousins, between the very pillars of the monarchy? Even the public is polarized. On one side, royal traditionalists nod in agreement, claiming that rules are rules and Charles acted in accordance with centuries of precedent. On the other, a tidal wave of support for Meghan and Harry floods social media, questioning the fairness, morality, and compassion of the decision. This is not just a royal matter. This is a cultural moment, a debate that forces the world to ask uncomfortable questions about privilege, fairness, and the definition of legacy. Now, let's talk about the children themselves, Archie and Lilibet. They are innocent, yet they are the center of a storm they didn't create. Denied titles, denied formal recognition in the official records, they faced the public's gaze in a way few children could ever understand. Imagine growing up under that pressure, your every milestone, your very name, subject to debate and scrutiny. The implications are immense: social, psychological, and emotional. And all of this before they've even reached an age where they can comprehend what it means. The palace, as always, is a hive of tension. Inside Buckingham Palace and Clarence House, advisors, strategists, and family members are quietly assessing the fallout. Each whispered conversation could be the spark for another leak, another headline, another controversy. Behind the formal walls of protocol, the human drama is raw, immediate, and unfiltered. Meghan's advisors are said to be crafting a response. Harry is reviewing options. And King Charles? He is standing firm, resolute, unwavering, having made a decision that he believes preserves the integrity of the institution, yet risks alienating some of its most high-profile members. And this is where it gets even more dramatic. Sources hint at private conversations, hushed phone calls, and urgent meetings. The palace staff, the security teams, the communications departments, all in motion, orchestrating damage control while the public narrative explodes online. The question isn't just what King Charles said. It's what Meghan and Harry will do next. Will there be a public response? A statement? A subtle act of defiance? Or will they retreat, licking their wounds, calculating their next move in the shadows? Here's something even more intriguing. Some insiders suggest this announcement was not entirely unexpected. Rumors, speculation, and leaks hinted at a looming decision, but the speed and finality of Charles's declaration caught many off guard. That sense of inevitability mixed with shock is a psychological twist that only adds fuel to the fire. Meghan, known for her strategic thinking and media savvy, now faces a challenge unlike any other: to respond effectively in a moment where her children's very identities are at stake. Think about it. 7 minutes ago, the world's narrative changed. In those 7 minutes, headlines exploded, tweets went viral, and millions of eyes turned toward the palace, toward Meghan, toward Harry. Time frozen away. Every second since has been a ticking clock, a countdown toward the next move, the next revelation, the next scandal. And the question hanging over it all is this: how far will Meghan go to protect her children, her family, and her legacy? And let's not forget the wider ramifications. This is not just a family drama. This is an institution in motion, a monarchy balancing tradition, public perception, and the personal desires of its members. Every decision sets a precedent, influences public opinion, and shapes history. Archie and Lilibet's denied titles are more than a personal loss. They are a chapter in the ongoing story of the modern royal family, a story that will be dissected, analyzed, and debated for years to come. But here's the cliffhanger, and this is the part you need to pay attention to. Sources suggest that what happened next, behind closed doors, was even more explosive. A private phone call, a secret meeting, and perhaps a plan that could change everything, not just for Meghan and Harry, but for the future of the monarchy itself. 7 minutes ago, the announcement shocked the world. But what came next? That's the part that will leave you speechless, and it's just the beginning. So hold on, because we're about to dive deeper into the private reactions, the hidden conflicts, the historical context, and the next moves that could turn this royal saga into one of the most shocking stories of the decade. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single detail. Because every twist, every revelation, every emotional beat is building toward a climax that no one saw coming. The countdown has started, and by the end of this story, you'll understand not just the decision, but the ripple effects that could change the face of royalty forever. 7 minutes ago, the world changed, and the truth behind what happened next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the royal family. The moment had arrived. The words were simple, yet they carried the weight of centuries. Archie and Lilibet will not receive royal titles. That statement, issued by King Charles himself, immediately reverberated across the globe. It wasn't buried in bureaucracy. It wasn't a subtle hint in a press release. It was an unmistakable declaration, a royal decree that would send shockwaves through the monarchy, the media, and the lives of Harry and Meghan in ways that no one could have predicted. Picture this. News outlets across London, New York, Los Angeles, and Sydney suddenly lit up with alerts. Smartphones buzzed relentlessly. Notifications screamed the same headline: King Charles ends the debate on royal titles for Archie and Lilibet. Within seconds, the public's attention pivoted entirely to the palace. Social media erupted. Memes, opinions, and emotional reactions flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Every royal correspondent, commentator, and influencer had a new story to tell, but the real story wasn't the headline. It was the people behind it. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was electric. Advisors, communications teams, and strategists were scrambling to ensure that the statement was delivered flawlessly, that no room was left for misinterpretation, and that the monarchy appeared united, decisive, and unwavering. Every word was weighed for tone, every phrase polished to perfection. And yet, despite all the preparation, the impact of the announcement was impossible to control. Some insiders later admitted that even they were surprised by the intensity of the immediate reactions, both public and private. For King Charles, this was a calculated move. He had inherited a monarchy in transition, facing unprecedented scrutiny, a generation questioning traditions, and a family increasingly divided. The question of Archie and Lilibet's royal titles had been a simmering issue for years, quietly debated behind palace doors. Should the children of a couple who stepped back from royal duties receive the same privileges as their cousins? Could precedent justify exceptions, or should the rules remain rigid? Charles's decision reflected not only his perspective on monarchy, but also his vision of how to preserve the institution's integrity. But it was the human dimension that made this moment explosive. Meghan Markle, in particular, felt the weight of every word. Sources report that she was immediately informed of the decision, and the reaction was intense. Shock, disbelief, and anger reportedly cascaded in quick succession. For a mother, hearing that your children's claim to legacy and recognition is officially denied is a unique and profound pain, a pain magnified when broadcast to the world. Meghan had spent years advocating for her family, carefully navigating royal protocols, media scrutiny, and public perception. This decision, delivered in a tone of absolute finality, was a direct blow. And yet, for all the drama surrounding Meghan, the announcement was designed to be clear, unambiguous, and historically grounded. Royal titles are not casually granted. They follow centuries of protocol, tradition, and precedent. Historically, the conferral of titles to royal children has been tied to lineage, the roles of their parents, and the expectations of service to the crown. By denying Archie and Lilibet, Charles reinforced these rules, a decision that, from his perspective, was both necessary and fair. But in the court of public opinion, fairness is rarely perceived solely in terms of history and protocol. Immediately, speculation ran rampant. Some claimed Charles was protecting the monarchy from further public controversy, ensuring that titles remained meaningful and consistent. Others accused him of favoritism, of targeting Meghan and Harry personally, or of undermining their family in a calculated display of authority. Royal watchers dissected every word, searching for hidden meanings, parsing statements for nuance, and framing the story as a dramatic clash of personalities, power, and legacy. Let's talk about timing. This announcement didn't come by accident. Insiders suggest that Charles had been deliberating quietly for months, consulting advisors, weighing legal implications, and monitoring public sentiment. When he finally acted, it was with a sense of absolute precision. The moment was right, the statement clear, the timing calculated to maximize authority and control. Yet, as with all things royal, timing is everything, and the world's reaction was far beyond what anyone could have anticipated. The public response was immediate and polarized. Traditionalists praised the king's decisiveness, citing the importance of upholding centuries-old rules. They argued that granting titles to the children of a couple who voluntarily stepped back from royal duties would dilute the significance of royal honors and set a dangerous precedent. On the other side, supporters of Meghan and Harry expressed outrage, framing the decision as punitive, unfair, and potentially damaging to the children themselves. Memes circulated portraying the royal family as rigid and disconnected, while opinion pieces questioned the moral and emotional implications of the ruling. But let's not forget the palace insiders, the people who work behind the scenes, orchestrating public perception, managing narratives, and quietly shaping history. For them, this was not just another announcement. It was a high-stakes operation, balancing the weight of tradition with the volatility of modern media. Communications teams had to anticipate every possible reaction, from tabloids to international news outlets, from political commentary to social media outrage. The slightest misstep could spiral into a full-blown crisis. And make no mistake, the palace is acutely aware that every reaction is a reflection of the monarchy itself. Meanwhile, Harry was reportedly devastated. Sources close to him describe a mix of anger, frustration, and protective instinct. As a father, the denial of his children's titles is a direct affront to his family. As a royal, it is a challenge to his understanding of fairness, duty, and legacy. For him and Meghan, the decision wasn't merely about formality. It was a symbolic rejection, a statement that, despite their contributions, the monarchy does not fully embrace them or their children. The announcement also triggered a media frenzy. Television networks interrupted programming to cover the story. News anchors parsed every word, speculated on hidden meanings, and interviewed experts and commentators, each offering their take on what this meant for the family and the monarchy at large. Within minutes, the story trended globally, dominating social feeds and news cycles. The sheer speed and reach of the dissemination amplified the emotional impact, making a personal family decision a public spectacle. But let's not forget the historical weight. In the annals of the monarchy, there have been disputes over royal titles, succession, and recognition, but few have captured the public imagination like this. The combination of celebrity, scandal, and the innocence of children creates a perfect storm. This is not just a procedural decision. It is a narrative loaded with drama, emotion, and high stakes. Every public and private reaction feeds into the story, creating layers of intrigue and tension that will unfold over months, even years. And here's the twist. While the public narrative focused on titles, the private story was far more complex. Sources indicate that within the palace, tensions were high. Advisors debated the timing and phrasing of the announcement. Security teams were on high alert. Even members of the extended royal family were reportedly consulted or at least informed, their reactions carefully measured before any public statement was made. Behind every calm public image, there was a storm of emotion, strategy, and calculation. For Meghan, the personal impact cannot be overstated. Every mother understands the desire to protect her children, to secure their place in the world, and to see them recognized for who they are. When a fatherly authority figure, a king, in this case, declares a denial of recognition, it triggers a cascade of emotions: anger, sadness, disbelief, and a determination to respond. And respond Meghan will. Sources hint at conversations, strategies, and potential media engagements that suggest she is already formulating her next move. Yet, King Charles remains firm. From his perspective, the decision is about more than individuals. It is about the institution, its history, its continuity, and its credibility. By denying titles, he signals that the monarchy's rules are not flexible, that protocol matters, and that tradition will be preserved even amidst modern challenges. For some, this is reassuring. For others, it is a reminder that the monarchy, while human, is ultimately an institution with priorities that may not align with personal desires. But here is the cliffhanger, and it is a dramatic one. Reports from sources inside the palace hint at a phone call, a private discussion, and potentially explosive conversations that took place immediately after the announcement. The content of those conversations, the emotions, and the possible plans being hatched remain shrouded in secrecy. And yet, whispers suggest that what Meghan and Harry are planning next could shake the monarchy in ways no one anticipated. 7 minutes ago, the announcement shocked the world. But what comes next, behind closed doors, could change everything. The ripple effects are just beginning. Public opinion, media narratives, family dynamics, and the children's futures are all intertwined in a story that promises twists, revelations, and moments of pure drama. And as we move deeper into this saga, every decision, every conversation, and every reaction will play a part in shaping the narrative of Archie and Lilibet's denied titles, a story that is far from over. The moment Meghan Markle heard the news, the reaction was immediate, intense, and profoundly personal. Reports suggest that she was not simply upset, she was furious. Not just frustrated, but a complex mix of disbelief, rage, and heartbreak. Imagine, for a moment, being a mother hearing that your children's rightful recognition, their very place in history, has been denied. That is exactly what Meghan faced. 7 minutes ago, the announcement went public. Seconds later, the private storm was unleashed. Inside the home Meghan and Harry share, the atmosphere reportedly shifted instantly. Advisors, confidants, and staff sensed the tension, a palpable energy crackling through the air. Meghan, known for her poise and composure in public, was said to be pacing, a storm of emotion reflected in every movement. According to sources, she repeatedly asked the same question over and over. How can this be fair? How can they do this to Archie and Lilibet? Each repetition emphasized not just anger but disbelief, the sense that the decision was not only shocking but fundamentally unjust. Harry, meanwhile, attempted to remain calm, but insiders confirm he was equally disturbed. Their household, often described as a carefully managed private space, had suddenly become a war room of strategy, emotion, and planning. Conversations that would normally be casual or routine became urgent and loaded with subtext. Every decision, what to say, what not to say, who to contact, what the public narrative would be, was now critical. For Meghan, the denial of titles was not just a procedural matter. Titles, in her mind, were a symbol of legitimacy and acknowledgement. Denying Archie and Lilibet those titles was a statement that their place in the royal family was conditional, fragile, and ultimately denied. Sources say she viewed this not just as a personal affront, but as an institutional betrayal, a rejection by the very family she had married into and worked to support. The emotional intensity of the moment is difficult to overstate. Imagine years of carefully navigating the British media, royal expectations, and public opinion, only to have the ultimate prize, recognition for your children, stripped away. Reports indicate that Meghan's response was multifaceted. There was anger, yes, but also deep concern for her children, strategic thinking about next steps, and a determination to fight for what she believed was right. Her advisors reportedly took detailed notes, capturing her ideas, questions, and potential actions. Sources suggest that Meghan immediately began to consider the next steps in a very public and private sense. Publicly, she could issue statements, engage media allies, or participate in interviews. Privately, she could consult with legal experts, strategists, and trusted confidants to determine whether there were any avenues to challenge or negotiate the decision. Every scenario was being evaluated, every angle considered, and every potential consequence weighed. But it wasn't just about strategy. It was also personal. Meghan reportedly called several friends and confidants immediately after hearing the news, seeking emotional support, validation, and perspective. These conversations, according to insiders, were candid, raw, and revealing. She expressed hurt, disappointment, and disbelief. She asked questions about fairness, loyalty, and the long-term impact on her children. Each conversation revealed layers of her emotional state. Protective, resilient, but undeniably human. Meanwhile, Harry was trying to balance his own emotions with the need to remain supportive and strategic. He reportedly advised Meghan to focus on the long-term implications, to consider the optics, and to think about their children's well-being above all else. Yet, sources indicate that even Harry struggled with the decision, feeling a combination of anger, frustration, and a sense of injustice. Together, they faced not only a procedural denial but a deeply personal rejection. Adding complexity to the situation were reports of palace insiders monitoring the reactions closely. Every statement, every movement, every social media post was being scrutinized. Advisors reportedly predicted that Meghan's response could set the tone for public discourse in the coming days. Would she remain silent, striking a posture of dignified restraint? Or would she engage the media, airing her grievances in a way that could escalate tensions? Every option carried risk and opportunity, and the couple had to navigate this delicate balance with precision. Sources suggest that Meghan's initial instinct was to act decisively. She reportedly began drafting potential statements, carefully choosing words that could convey her disappointment without escalating the situation unnecessarily. Advisors cautioned restraint, noting that any public action could trigger a backlash from traditionalist segments of the royal audience. Yet Meghan's drive to protect her children and assert their place in the family was reportedly irresistible. Every hour that passed without action increased the sense of urgency, the need to respond, and the pressure to assert control over the narrative. The emotional stakes were heightened by the media storm. Journalists and commentators across the world were already framing the announcement in dramatic terms. Headlines screamed phrases like, "Royal titles denied, monarchy draws line in sand," and "Meghan's children rejected by the crown." For Meghan, each headline was not just information but a reflection of the scrutiny and judgment she already felt. The intersection of personal pain and public exposure created a pressure cooker environment, where every thought, action, and reaction mattered exponentially more than usual. It is also important to note the psychological toll of the moment. Being a public figure is one thing, Being a mother under intense public scrutiny is another entirely. Meghan reportedly grappled with conflicting emotions, the desire to fight for her children, the need to protect their innocence, and the reality of the powerful institution she was challenging. Advisors later described her demeanor as focused yet charged, a complex mix of motherly instinct and strategic acumen. Every gesture, every expression, carried meaning, both privately and publicly. Amid all this, sources reveal a particularly revealing private conversation that may have set the stage for Meghan's next moves. In a secure, confidential discussion with a trusted confidant, Meghan reportedly outlined potential strategies: direct communication with palace officials, selective media engagement, and even legal consultation regarding the decision's implications. She asked probing questions about precedent, protocol, and historical context. Every detail mattered, because in her view, Archie and Lilibet's future was at stake. And then there was Harry. According to insiders, he supported Meghan's drive while also cautioning patience. He understood the emotional intensity of the moment, but also recognized the long-term implications of any hasty action. Sources say he reminded Meghan to consider the optics carefully, to protect their family's image, and to ensure that every move was calculated. Even in private, this was a delicate balancing act between emotion and strategy, instinct and foresight. But let's not forget the drama simmering just outside the public eye. The palace, ever aware of the couple's potential response, reportedly began contingency planning. Staff and advisors were prepared for media statements, social media reactions, and public scrutiny. The ripple effect of Meghan's response, according to insiders, was expected to be significant. Any action could either escalate tensions or defuse them, and every option carried risk. What's particularly intriguing is that Meghan reportedly did not feel isolated. Sources indicate that she was in constant communication with a close circle of allies who offered advice, moral support, and guidance. These individuals, aware of the high stakes, reportedly helped her consider every possible scenario, weighing public perception against personal principles. For Meghan, the goal was clear: to assert the dignity, legitimacy, and protection of her children, while navigating an institution resistant to change. The emotional narrative, however, remained the central story. While the world focused on titles and precedent, Meghan's private reaction revealed the human cost. The heartbreak, frustration, and protective instinct of a mother are universal emotions, transcending protocol and tradition. Her fury was not just political or strategic. It was deeply personal, a reflection of love, loyalty, and the desire to secure her children's place in the world. And then came the whispers. Insiders hint at a private moment, a phone call, a discussion that could potentially change the trajectory of the family's response. Details are scarce, intentionally guarded, but sources suggest that Meghan and Harry were already mobilizing for a response that could be dramatic, measured, or both. The stakes were enormous, the consequences far-reaching, and the public watching every move with bated breath. Here's the cliffhanger. While the announcement itself was a shock, Meghan's private reaction set the stage for a confrontation, a strategy, and possibly a public spectacle that no one saw coming. 7 minutes ago, the world learned that Archie and Lilibet would not receive royal titles. Now, in the shadows of private conversations, plans were already taking shape. Plans that could redefine public perception, challenge royal authority, and ensure that Meghan's voice would not go unheard. The story is far from over. Meghan's fury, Harry's resolve, and the palace's careful orchestration have created a tense, intricate web of intrigue. Every decision, every statement, every reaction is part of a larger narrative, a narrative that will unfold in ways both shocking and revealing. 7 minutes ago, a decree was made. But what happens next, behind closed doors, could change the course of the monarchy forever. The question that has gripped the royal family, the media, and the public for years finally reached its conclusion. What is the future of Archie and Lilibet? Will they carry the titles that define generations, or will they grow up outside the formal recognition of the monarchy? 7 minutes ago, King Charles answered that question definitively, and the implications are staggering. To understand why this matters so deeply, we need to explore what royal titles truly signify. Titles like Prince and Princess are not mere honorifics. They carry history, privilege, and recognition. They denote a direct connection to the throne, an acknowledgement of status, and a public affirmation of belonging. A title is a form of validation that a child is, in the eyes of the monarchy, an integral part of the family legacy. Denying that title is, in essence, a statement. You are part of the bloodline, but not part of the official narrative. For Archie and Lilibet, this denial is monumental. Imagine growing up knowing that the world recognizes your parentage, but refuses to fully recognize you. Imagine attending events where cousins carry the honors you were denied. The emotional impact is undeniable, even for children too young to fully understand the political intricacies. For Meghan and Harry, the stakes are both personal and symbolic. Every choice they make now shapes not just the present, but the perception of their children's legacy for decades to come. The debate over titles has historical precedent, and understanding it provides context for Charles's decision. Traditionally, titles are conferred based on specific lineage rules, often tied to direct succession or the roles of parents within the monarchy. Over the centuries, there have been cases where children were denied titles due to unconventional circumstances, marriages outside expected norms, or political considerations. Each case carried its own controversy, its own ripple effects, and its own emotional toll. Charles's decision is consistent with these traditions. Yet in the modern era, with global media scrutiny and social media amplification, the emotional and public ramifications are unprecedented. For Meghan, the decision is more than historical nuance. It is a personal affront. Sources indicate that she sees the denial as an attack on her children's legitimacy, their right to recognition, and their place in the family she married into. Every advisor she consulted reportedly confirmed that the emotional stakes were immense, that any public response would need to balance maternal protection with strategic communication. But Meghan is not known for passivity. Even in the face of centuries of protocol, her instinct is to fight for her children. Harry, similarly, views the issue through both personal and institutional lenses. As a father, he is enraged that his children have been denied acknowledgement. As a former senior royal, he understands the structural arguments, the protocols, the traditions, the legalities. Yet even he reportedly struggles with reconciling his loyalty to the monarchy with his responsibility to his family. The tension between personal love and institutional duty forms the crux of this debate. The public has been watching this story unfold for years. Social media reactions illustrate a deep divide. On one side are traditionalists, who argue that Archie and Lilibet's lack of titles is appropriate, adhering to precedent and preserving the integrity of royal protocol. On the other side, supporters of Meghan and Harry see the denial as punitive, unnecessary, and emotionally damaging. Memes, opinion pieces, and viral posts frame the debate as a clash of old-world tradition versus modern fairness. This public discourse, combined with palace intrigue, heightens the stakes and ensures that every reaction has significance. Legal experts have weighed in as well. While royal titles are typically conferred by letters patent, issued by the sovereign, there are nuances in protocol that have allowed exceptions in some historical cases. Scholars note that titles are both symbolic and administrative. They dictate precedence, public recognition, and certain ceremonial roles. Denying titles, therefore, is both a public statement and a practical limitation, impacting how Archie and Lilibet will be addressed in official settings, photographed, or included in formal events. From a media perspective, the story is irresistible. The combination of a public denial, high-profile parents, and innocent children creates the perfect storm. Journalists around the world dissect every phrase, speculate on hidden motivations, and suggest potential future battles. Headlines range from Archie and Lilibet's titles denied, the royal divide deepens, to Meghan furious as King Charles draws line in sand. The coverage ensures that the emotional stakes are magnified, turning a procedural decision into global spectacle. Within the palace, the debate over titles has been ongoing behind closed doors for years. Reports suggest that advisors, legal experts, and family members have been quietly weighing options, considering both precedent and modern expectations. Arguments likely included considerations of public perception, historical consistency, and the balance of tradition against evolving norms. When Charles made his decision, he drew upon this complex tapestry of advice, history, and calculation. Yet the personal dimension, the impact on Meghan and Harry, could not be ignored. For Meghan, the denial of titles is deeply intertwined with identity and legacy. She reportedly views it not just as an administrative issue, but as a reflection of acceptance, belonging, and recognition. Denial is, therefore, emotional as well as structural. Every statement, every move, every public appearance is filtered through the lens of how it affects Archie and Lilibet. Advisors have noted that her responses are meticulously calculated to protect their interests, navigate public perception, and maintain dignity in the face of official rejection. The children themselves are innocent observers of a drama they cannot yet fully comprehend. Their experience, however, will inevitably be shaped by the narrative surrounding them. Denied titles, they may face questions from peers, media attention, or public curiosity. Meghan and Harry reportedly spend considerable time considering how to shield their children from unnecessary stress, while also preparing them for the reality of public life. The psychological and emotional considerations are immense, and every decision the parents make carries long-term implications. Historical comparisons illustrate just how sensitive this issue is. In the past, royal children denied titles often faced complicated family dynamics, public speculation, and in some cases, lasting reputational effects. Yet, the modern media landscape amplifies these pressures exponentially. What once may have been an internal matter now unfolds in real time, with every social media post, news article, and opinion poll feeding into the larger narrative. For Meghan and Harry, this represents a new frontier of challenge and vigilance. And here is where the tension deepens. Reports indicate that Meghan has been exploring avenues to challenge or influence the decision, carefully weighing legal, public relations, and personal strategies. Every move must be precise. Too aggressive, and the monarchy could push back. Too passive, and the opportunity to assert her children's position may be lost. Harry reportedly advises caution while supporting action, balancing emotion with strategy. Together, they navigate a minefield of tradition, media, and personal conviction. The debate also raises questions about the future of the monarchy itself. By denying titles to Archie and Lilibet, King Charles signals a commitment to tradition and protocol. Yet, in an era where public perception increasingly influences royal legitimacy, such decisions carry risk. Supporters of Meghan and Harry may view the move as exclusionary, potentially eroding goodwill and fan support. Critics may see it as necessary discipline, reinforcing rules and boundaries. The tension between public approval and institutional integrity forms a central theme in this unfolding saga. And then there are whispers of private maneuvering. Sources hint at confidential meetings, discreet consultations, and strategic planning taking place behind the scenes. Meghan and Harry reportedly have allies both inside and outside royal circles, providing advice on legal options, media strategy, and public messaging. The story is not just about a decision. It's about the complex web of influence, negotiation, and strategy that surrounds it. Here's the cliffhanger. While the debate over titles has reached a formal conclusion, the personal, emotional, and strategic battles are only beginning. Meghan and Harry are said to be plotting next steps that could challenge, reinterpret, or at least publicly respond to the decision. 7 minutes ago, the king's announcement shocked the world. Now, behind closed doors, the couple's plans may set the stage for a confrontation, a media spectacle, or a subtle, strategic push that no one saw coming. The story of Archie and Lilibet's denied titles is far from over. It is a narrative that combines history, emotion, strategy, and public spectacle. Every decision, every action, and every reaction from this point forward will ripple through the monarchy, the media, and the public, shaping how the next generation perceives not just titles, but family, legitimacy, and power. Behind the grand facades of Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, and Kensington Palace, a quiet but intense drama was unfolding. While the public digested King Charles's announcement denying Archie and Lilibet royal titles, inside the palace, whispers carried far more weight than any headline. Every corridor, every staircase, and every quiet room was a conduit for information, speculation, and strategic maneuvering. This is the world of the Palace Whisper Network, and it is as complex and influential as the monarchy itself. In royal circles, whispers are currency. Advisors, aides, and senior staff communicate in subtle signals, knowing that a single word can ignite controversy or calm a brewing storm. When news of the title's denial broke, the Palace Whisper Network sprang to life. Conversations that might otherwise be mundane, scheduling, events, correspondence, became charged with meaning. Every gesture, glance, or private comment was scrutinized, interpreted, and, in some cases, deliberately leaked. Sources indicate that the first wave of whispers involved Meghan and Harry. Observers reported that Meghan's immediate reaction was shared among a close circle of confidants, who quickly passed along the details to trusted media contacts. The purpose was twofold: to provide an authentic account of her feelings and to subtly signal that she was not backing down. The whispers, though carefully measured, fueled speculation that Meghan was already formulating a plan to challenge the decision in some way. The emotional intensity of the network cannot be ignored. For those involved, the denial of titles is not merely a procedural matter. It carries implications for family relationships, loyalty, and personal standing within the monarchy. Each whisper, each private remark, carries consequences. Some insiders reportedly experienced stress, anxiety, and moral conflict, torn between loyalty to the institution and empathy for Meghan and Harry's plight. The human element of the network, ambition, emotion, and judgment, is as powerful as any official decree. Now, consider the public implications. Every whisper that leaks becomes fodder for journalists, commentators, and social media users. Speculation spreads quickly, often distorting the original message. In the case of Archie and Lilibet's titles, whispers fueled narratives about palace division, family tension, and Meghan's possible reactions. These narratives then feed back into the Whisper Network, creating a continuous loop of influence, interpretation, and response. It is a feedback cycle where truth, perception, and strategy collide. The Whisper Network also creates opportunities for unexpected alliances. Sources hint at sympathetic insiders who may share information selectively with Meghan and Harry, providing insight into palace thinking, potential leaks, or strategic advice. These allies, operating in the shadows, could be pivotal in shaping the couple's next moves. Whether through discreet conversations, confidential memos, or off-the-record briefings, the Whisper Network provides channels of influence that are invisible to the public eye but immensely powerful behind the scenes. And here's the cliffhanger. While the public sees only a denial of titles and a shocked reaction from Meghan and Harry, the Palace Whisper Network is already at work orchestrating the next phase of the story. Rumors of secret meetings, discreet communications, and strategic alliances hint at a potential confrontation or negotiation that could dramatically alter the narrative. 7 minutes ago, the announcement changed the public story. But behind closed doors, the whispers are shaping the next move, a move that could surprise everyone. The Palace Whisper Network is, in essence, the heartbeat of the monarchy's internal life. It manages perception, guides strategy, and mediates conflict, all while remaining invisible to the outside world. And in the case of Archie and Lilibet's denied titles, it has become a central player in a drama that blends history, protocol, emotion, and high-stakes strategy. Every whisper matters. Every leak matters. And every move could alter the course of the story forever. The moment King Charles's announcement became public, the world reacted, and reacted fast. Within minutes, social media platforms exploded with commentary, speculation, and outrage. News outlets from London to Los Angeles interrupted regular programming to cover the story. Headlines screamed in bold letters: Archie and Lilibet denied royal titles. King Charles ends debate on children's status. Meghan furious over royal snub. The sheer velocity and intensity of the coverage created an unprecedented media storm, a whirlwind that enveloped the royal family and demanded attention from every corner of the globe. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok became battlegrounds of opinion. Supporters of King Charles and the monarchy praised the decision as necessary, citing tradition, protocol, and the importance of preserving the integrity of royal titles. They argued that granting titles to the children of a couple who had stepped back from royal duties would dilute centuries of precedent, potentially creating confusion and controversy for generations to come. In threads, forums, and comment sections, These voices emphasized respect for history, law, and royal protocol, calling Charles's move decisive and fair. On the other side of the digital battlefield were Meghan and Harry's supporters, who saw the announcement as not just unfair, but emotionally cruel. These voices painted a portrait of two innocent children being denied recognition for no reason other than politics, tradition, or personal bias. Memes circulated portraying the monarchy as rigid, unfeeling, or punitive. Opinion pieces in global publications questioned the morality of the decision and framed it as part of a larger struggle between the old guard of the royal family and a modern, inclusive perspective. Public sentiment was heated, polarized, and impossible to ignore. Journalists and commentators immediately began analyzing every aspect of the decision. Experts on monarchy and history were called in to explain the precedent, dissecting the rules surrounding royal titles and who qualifies for them. Legal analysts discussed letters patent, succession laws, and the ceremonial implications of title denial. Psychologists weighed in on the potential emotional impact for Archie and Lilibet. Each segment, article, and broadcast added new layers to the story, amplifying the drama and keeping the public hooked. The media storm wasn't limited to traditional outlets. Influencers, podcasters, and social media personalities joined the conversation, creating viral content that further fueled public discourse. Hashtags trended within minutes, some supportive, others critical, all designed to spark engagement, debate, and reaction. The combination of instantaneous social media dissemination and traditional journalistic coverage ensured that the announcement reached audiences globally, creating a perfect storm of public attention and scrutiny. Public outrage manifested in various ways. Petitions appeared online, calling for the reversal of Charles's decision. Fan accounts dedicated to Meghan and Harry posted statements of solidarity, urging the public to recognize the injustice. Commenters speculated about future public appearances, media campaigns, and possible challenges to the decision. The emotional resonance of the story was heightened by the innocence of the children involved, creating an intense reaction from parents, advocates, and observers worldwide. Simultaneously, traditionalist audiences defended the monarchy with fervor. In opinion columns, radio shows, and TV panels, voices argued that rules exist for a reason and that the decision protects the sanctity of royal titles. They cited historical examples of children denied titles, the importance of consistency in succession and protocol, and the need to maintain institutional authority. For these audiences, outrage was misplaced. The decision was not personal but procedural, a reinforcement of centuries of established practice. The public outrage was compounded by speculation about Meghan and Harry's private reaction. Every movement, every interview, and every social media post was analyzed for hidden meaning. Sources claimed that Meghan's expression at a recent public event, previously interpreted as neutral, was now read as a response to the announcement. Harry's public comments were dissected, with minor phrasing taken as evidence of frustration, disagreement, or strategic positioning. The global audience became armchair analysts, interpreting behavior, projecting intent, and amplifying narratives that may have never been intended. This media storm also had tangible effects on the palace. Advisors, communications teams, and family members were reported to be monitoring coverage constantly. Every headline, tweet, and post was analyzed for tone, accuracy, and potential impact. Contingency plans were activated to manage public perception, mitigate misinterpretation, and maintain the monarchy's image. Leaks, intentional or inadvertent, were traced, and messaging strategies adjusted in real time. The palace, in effect, was responding to a story that had taken on a life of its own. The intensity of the reaction was not just a reflection of the announcement itself, but also of the context in which it occurred. The royal family has been under unprecedented scrutiny in recent years, with Meghan and Harry at the center of a narrative about modernization, inclusivity, and family conflict. The denial of titles touched on themes of fairness, legacy, and parental rights, resonating with audiences far beyond the United Kingdom. It was more than a story about royalty. It became a cultural touchpoint, a moment of debate, and a symbol of broader social questions. Public opinion was further influenced by commentary from high-profile figures, journalists, and analysts. Some framed the story as a power struggle within the family, suggesting that Charles's decision was as much about asserting authority as it was about protocol. Others highlighted Meghan's tenacity and Harry's protective instincts, portraying them as modern parents fighting for their children in a world that is simultaneously fascinated and critical of royalty. Each interpretation added layers to the narrative, creating multiple entry points for audience engagement. The media storm also had financial and social implications. Increased coverage meant higher viewership for networks, more engagement for digital platforms, and amplified advertising opportunities. Analysts noted that stories involving Meghan and Harry consistently drive traffic, illustrating the global appetite for royal drama. This economic dimension intensified the coverage, ensuring that the story would remain in the public eye for days, weeks, and possibly months. Yet, amid the outrage and analysis, there was a human story that risked being overshadowed. Archie and Lilibet, young children, were at the center of a global debate they could not comprehend. Sources close to Meghan and Harry described efforts to shield them from the media frenzy, to maintain normalcy, and to provide a sense of security despite the public storm. Every step the parents took was designed to protect their children's emotional well-being, even as their titles, recognition, and legacy became fodder for global conversation. Meanwhile, the Whisper network inside the palace remained active, feeding information to media outlets, shaping narratives, and strategically influencing perception. Leaks about family tensions, private conversations, and potential next moves added fuel to the fire. Every news cycle, every breaking alert, intensified the public's emotional investment, turning a procedural decision into a full-blown spectacle. And here is the cliffhanger. While the public outrage and media storm raged on, behind the palace doors, Meghan and Harry were reportedly strategizing their next moves. Sources hint at plans for private consultations, legal reviews, and potential media engagements that could challenge, reinterpret, or publicly respond to the decision. 7 minutes ago, the announcement shocked the world. Now, the storm was escalating, and the next move could dramatically reshape public perception, family dynamics, and the unfolding royal saga. The story is far from over. As headlines continue to flash across screens, social media feeds explode with opinion and outrage, and the palace braces for impact, one question remains. How will Meghan and Harry navigate this unprecedented media storm? Will they respond with restraint, or will the world witness a bold, calculated statement that redefines the narrative? 7 minutes ago, history was made. The question is, what comes next? To fully understand the magnitude of King Charles's decision, we need to look at history. Royal titles are not simply ceremonial. They are a reflection of lineage, responsibility, and privilege. Denying them is not a casual act. It is a move steeped in tradition and precedent. And while the modern media may sensationalize today's events, the monarchy has a long history of similar decisions, each carrying its own drama, consequences, and controversies. One of the most notable precedents is the case of Princess Margaret's children. Though Margaret herself retained a prominent royal position, her children did not automatically receive titles in line with their status. The rationale, at the time, was rooted in protocol and the preservation of a clear line of succession. While Margaret's situation differs from Meghan and Harry's in numerous ways, the principle is the same. The monarchy has historically drawn lines around titles to maintain order, hierarchy, and precedent. The public may have forgotten the nuances of such historical rulings, but their echoes remain relevant today. Similarly, the children of Edward VIII after his abdication faced a complex situation. Though he remained a prominent figure, his descendants were largely excluded from the line of succession and did not receive traditional titles. This decision, like Charles's recent announcement, blended legal authority with personal circumstance, creating tension between family loyalty and institutional integrity. Historians often note that these decisions caused private heartache, public speculation, and, in some cases, subtle shifts in how the monarchy was perceived by the public. Another precedent comes from the era of King George V, who made strategic decisions about who could bear royal titles. Several children born from marriages considered unconventional at the time were either given reduced titles or excluded entirely from certain honors. The rationale was consistent: preserving the perception of legitimacy, maintaining tradition, and avoiding complications in ceremonial protocol. While these historical examples may seem distant, they illustrate a consistent pattern. Monarchs act decisively when family structure or public perception threatens the established order. The denial of titles has also historically intersected with gender dynamics. In some cases, daughters were denied titles or privileges that sons received, reflecting broader societal norms. While modern sensibilities challenge these inequities, the tradition remains part of the monarchy's DNA, and any deviation today must contend with both historical precedent and public expectation. In Meghan and Harry's situation, while gender is not the determining factor, the principle of adherence to precedent echoes strongly. Beyond protocol, there is the question of public perception. In the past, the denial of titles often led to speculation, scandal, or whispered rumors. The media of earlier centuries, though slower than today, still played a role in shaping public opinion. Courtiers, correspondents, and insiders leaked details, fueling curiosity and shaping narratives. Today, with instantaneous global communication, the impact is magnified exponentially. While the historical cases were constrained by slower dissemination, the principles remain. Title denials have always been both personal and public events, creating ripple effects far beyond the palace walls. Perhaps one of the most intriguing cases involves King George VI, whose decisions around the titles of extended family members were both strategic and emotional. Some cousins and nieces were excluded from formal titles due to considerations of succession, marriage, and service to the crown. These decisions were private, yet had public ramifications, influencing relationships within the family and creating long-lasting narratives. Analysts often note that these historical precedents demonstrate how monarchs balance institutional stability with personal dynamics. A balancing act mirrored in King Charles's recent decision regarding Archie and Lilibet. Yet, historical precedent does not always predict public sentiment. In many cases, title denials were met with quiet resentment, private protest, or subtle acts of defiance. While the institution remained outwardly stable, personal relationships were strained and rumors circulated. Meghan and Harry's reaction fits within this pattern, blending personal grievance with public awareness. They are not the first to face the emotional complexity of being denied acknowledgement by a monarchy, but they are perhaps the first to navigate it in an era of relentless global media scrutiny. Another historical example comes from the Tudor era, when legitimacy and inheritance were highly contested. Children born under unconventional circumstances were often denied titles, lands, and positions of power. While the context was markedly different, the principle is similar. Monarchs exercise authority to maintain clarity, legitimacy, and control. Charles's announcement echoes this long tradition, reinforcing the idea that royal titles are contingent, conditional, and ultimately under the sovereign's discretion. In more recent history, the marriage of Prince Michael of Kent and its impact on his children provides another relevant precedent. Though Michael himself retained his royal position, his descendants were not automatically granted titles. This decision, influenced by marital choice and familial dynamics, illustrates how personal circumstances and adherence to protocol intersect to shape royal recognition. For Archie and Lilibet, the intersection of Meghan and Harry stepping back from royal duties and Charles's authority mirrors this complex dynamic. Historical precedent also highlights the emotional weight of title denial. Monarchs may act decisively to preserve the institution, yet the personal fallout can be significant. Families have experienced tension, resentment, and estrangement as a result of these decisions. Letters, diaries, and memoirs often reveal the private anguish behind official pronouncements. For Meghan and Harry, sources indicate that this emotional resonance is palpable. The denial is not abstract. It is personal, immediate, and deeply felt. Yet history also provides insight into potential strategies for navigating such denials. Previous generations have used media, private negotiations, and public service to challenge or reinterpret the implications of denied titles. In some cases, titles were later restored, modified, or symbolically acknowledged. While no two situations are identical, these historical lessons suggest that denial is not always final, and that careful strategy can influence outcomes. Meghan and Harry are reportedly aware of these precedents, potentially informing their next moves. The emotional stakes are compounded by public fascination with history. Audiences around the world are captivated by royal drama, partly because of the continuity it represents. When history is invoked, when comparisons are made to past monarchs and past decisions, the story gains gravitas. The public begins to see the current denial not just as a personal affront, but as part of a centuries-long narrative, connecting present-day drama to royal tradition. And here's the cliffhanger. While history provides context, it does not dictate outcome. Charles's decision, grounded in precedent, is only one chapter in the unfolding story. Behind the scenes, Meghan and Harry may draw on historical examples, legal avenues, and strategic thinking to challenge, reinterpret, or respond to the decision. 7 minutes ago, the announcement shocked the world. The question now is whether history will repeat itself, or whether the couple will redefine the rules entirely.